Well, I suppose it had to happen eventually. The Dutch government is clearly just so determined to prostrate its country towards Mecca that insulting Islam is now officially a criminal offence. That's right, you're not allowed to insult anyone's beliefs in the Netherlands, even if those beliefs insult you and everything you stand for. As part of the ongoing Islamisation process, the Amsterdam Appeals Court has sanctioned the prosecution of an elected politician for making a film critical of Islam and for comparing the Quran with Mein Kampf. Now, I have to say I've never actually read Hitler's book, but I have read the Quran, and as an unbeliever, which I am, by the way, I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, if I talked about Muslims the way their holy book talks about me, I'd be arrested for hate speech and I'd probably end up in prison. Fortunately, I don't feel inclined to behave in that way because I don't feel the same level of hatred towards Muslims that their holy book evidently feels towards me. Now, in justifying this prosecution, the court said that it went according to the standards of the European Court of Human Rights, which I have to say rang one or two alarm bells for me, because I think we all know by now that whenever we hear the words human rights in connection with Islam, we're about to be confronted with another piece of ugly opportunism that spits in the face of genuine human rights and insults everyone's intelligence. And so it was a few months ago when the Islamic dictatorships hijacked the United Nations Human Rights Council and immediately demanded that Western governments make it a crime to criticise Islam. At the time, I didn't know whether the Dutch or the Swedish government would be the first to snap to attention and offer them everything they want on a silver plate, but in the event, the Dutch establishment just happened to have a convenient fall guy who they didn't want embarrassing them anymore, because let's be fair, they're more than capable of embarrassing themselves. And what a wonderful job they're doing of that at the moment, embarrassing not only themselves, but their people, their country. In fact, the entire continent of Europe is blushing for Holland today, especially for the dhimmi judges of Amsterdam, to whom the politics of appeasement are clearly more important even than justice. Shame on you. And what kind of justice system is it where the truth is inadmissible as evidence? What kind of a place are the Dutch people allowing their country to turn into? From a beacon of enlightened liberal values to the leading edge of the new totalitarianism in just a few short years, thanks entirely to the influence of Islam. You're being chewed up and spat out is what's happening to you people. Look at what you're doing. You're prosecuting a man who lives under 24-hour protection from attack by violent Muslims, yet he's the criminal for expressing an opinion. Lewis Carroll couldn't have written this one any better. Nobody should be compelled to respect an ideology that doesn't respect them. And Islam respects nobody. It claims dominion. Respect doesn't come into it. You submit. That's the deal. The Dutch people are finally waking up to this fact. 60% of them now consider Islam to be a threat to their national identity. Unfortunately, none of those people are in power. The ones who are in power have pretty much backed themselves into a corner. Either continue with this toxic multicultural lie indefinitely, or admit to a catastrophic mistake in opening the floodgates to Islam in the first place. But they could never do that because that would be racist. That's quite a predicament, isn't it? It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. In fact, it's still quite funny because stupidity in action is always pretty funny. But this is a dark hour for the Netherlands, there's no doubt about that. And it's also kind of a watershed moment for the rest of Europe. We'll all be watching now to see how this turns out. If these charges succeed, we'll know the dike has been breached, and it's the beginning of the end of justice as we know it in Europe, and the beginning of creeping Sharia, or injustice as we know it. Looking forward to that? No, me neither. Now, the truth is sometimes offensive. There's no doubt about that. But it doesn't make it any less true. And the truth is that there are millions of people all over the Western world who are absolutely sick and tired of Islam. They're sick of hearing about it, and they're sick of having to make allowances for it that aren't deserved. And they feel enough is enough, and their voices will be heard. The multicultural mafia can pretend it ain't so, and they can pass all the laws they want to and continue to harass people and shut down internet connections and generally behave like the Gestapo, but it isn't going to work. You can't change people's hearts by force. We are not going to respect Islam until Islam starts to respect us. But then, if that ever happened, it wouldn't be Islam anymore. And that, in a nutshell, is the problem. Peace, and good luck, Netherlands. You're going to need it.